All right, everybody, welcome to our final round, our final feature match here for the day. Sorry about the delay, waiting for our players to actually join the match. And these players are 6 wins on the basically winning in. Both these players have great tiebreakers. So just really going to be, whoever takes this down, going to be able to move into the top 8. As I say, that Magic's Dan Breakers is not amazing. So they have a little bit more of a challenge. But since this is, not necessarily top-down pairing here, Analog, you can kind of play anyone within your brackets. So winning in for MTG, maybe not so much for Death Shadow, but this is always a really fun match to watch.
Yeah, this matchup is going to be quite the dance, right? Death Shadow against Mono Red Aggro. Death Shadow, a deck that is actively looking to lower its life total. Mono Red Aggro also actively looking to lower their opponent's life total. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a dance for sure to see how we can stay healthy enough to kill them, but also not go low enough to die.
Yeah, there's that tension point where, especially way back in the day with Death Shadow, it always comes down to the Shadow player trying to, if they get to make a choice, do they want to really attack their own life total and try to hustle out Death Shadows? Or do they want to take it nice and coy? And then the Mono Red player doesn't want to burn them until they've gotten down to 13. So that magic pressure point of 13 life is what we're going to be really looking for.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to see on turn 1, Dragon's Rage Channeler, Mishra's Bauble, and a Bloodstained Mire that has gone for what seems to be a basic mountain. And the Drown and the Lock in the hand, it is somewhat awkward. But again, the name of the game is preserving the life total. And so despite not being able to cast a Drown and Lock, I imagine this is the correct fetch here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is always brutal. You just really don't want to hurt yourself. And start putting, Delta lands into play tap, putting these duels into play tap, stuff like that, and going from there.
All right, we'll see Monastery, Swift Spear come into play, followed up with the Mishra's Bauble, and that is going to be cracked on the upkeep here. Any specific reason for this sequencing?
Up on the upkeep, yeah. So it is definitely so. Just in case you don't get Thoughtseize, you don't want to give extra information. So up against the Thoughtseize deck, when you don't need to draw a card, you always want to do it during your opponent's draw step. To still get that information of what they're for sure drawing, but then not fall victim in case they do have a Thoughtseize. We know that there's not one available. But that is the main reason.
Okay, yeah, and that's just good practice here. We're going to see Unholy Heat take care of Monastery Swift Spear. Watery Grave coming into play tapped now, and then Dragon's Rage Channeler in the red zone.
Absolutely. We'll see what our mono red gamer has. Not that often you see mono red, and they don't have their hand cam ready. So if they do make it into the top 8, we'll try to get them going. And oh yeah, as we say, mono red, this is 8 Blast. 8 Blast, a really new, cool deck that's been popping up right now, and I absolutely love this deck. You call it 8 Blast because you play Galvanic Blast and Shrapnel Blast. This is an artifact theme hyper aggressive deck that is just trying to leverage all your really fast 1-drops, Swift Spears, DRC, Regavans, but then really close out the game with Shrapnel Blast, with Lightning Bolt, with Galvanic Blast. It's a really cool deck, Anurag.
Wow, and check this out. Pauper All-Star Voldaren Epicure in play now, making a blood token. We're going to see on the other side Expressive Iteration. I'm very excited about this. This is really cool. So this is a 1/1 for red, and when it ETBs, it deals 1 damage to each opponent, but then also makes a blood token. So this is perfect for those artifact synergies that you're looking for.
Yeah, it's really, really good stuff. I'm a big fan of this deck. Usually every deck I play, it's pretty good against me too. Like I always think, mono red, this is a meme. And then I'm just like, ooh, their sideboards usually have like a bunch of relics. They have Urza's Saga usually in the deck to be able to fetch them. It's a really scary deck.
All right, so Thoughtseize is going to take Lightning Bolt, which, is somewhat of a profitable exchange, saving 1 life on the up and up. And then, whoa, there's experimental synthesizer in this deck as well. My goodness.
Yeah, this deck is sweet. Synthesizer, because it's great with Shrapnel Blast. Sacrifice that, you get the card, and you get to deal 5 damage. Man, this matchup could be really rough for Death Shadow in our final match of the day, y'all.
I mean, now I understand why this deck is doing so well. It's so
Yeah, it's a
cool.
good
It's got
deck.
so much stuff going on.
Yeah, it is a very, very strong deck. That's for sure.
Okay, so looks like for MTG is now going down to 1 or 2 cards in hand here. Magic Dan sitting at 12 life. So now we have crossed that threshold that you were mentioning before of 13 life. So now I think, the music gets a lot more tense, and finally we can drill down into what was going to be like the most critical turns.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean it's just brutal. Like now the card you really want is Death Shadow. Like Death Shadow is the card in this matchup. But yeah, I mean, without having it, there is a breach that can kind of go nuts with value here, which is kind of tempting and kind of surprising to me that we didn't go for it, to be honest. I guess you really want to have Drown in the Lock available and you want to sack Delta and only take 1 damage since you have your 2 basics in play already.
Uh
I also can respect the foiled out Death Shadow deck here. That's pretty nice.
oh yeah. On Magic Online, I feel like foils mean something else. They're certainly indicative. But yeah, look at this end step lightning bolt. Okay, we're fetching, and the point now is to cast Drown in the Lock. So this is really fascinating. Lightning bolt is usually a spell that I don't really ever consider counter spelling, but given that the deck is mono red, seems like it makes a lot of sense to do so.
Man,
here.
nice life you live, Anurag, where you're just like, I don't need to counter this bolt. I got all this life total despair. Some of us don't have that luxury, and we play these decks that lose to lightning bolt decks, okay? And I'm happy about it.
Oh my, wait a minute. This is actually just lethal.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This deck is fast. This deck is
Wow.
really fast, and that's for MTG picking up game 1 and being 1 game away from locking up a spot in the top 8 here with those really nice breakers. Opponents win percentage here looking at has 66.3. That is way higher than than miles above everybody else at 6 points or at 6 match wins, and then all the 7-pointers above. There's plenty of people that for MTG would be able to jump. So this is a true winner, and if for MTG is able to pick up 1 more game.
Yeah,
Exciting
I mean,
stuff.
let's talk about some sideboard action here, because I'm looking at this mono red deck. I just want to get a better idea of where it actually stands and what it's trying to accomplish. So we've already identified that it is this 8 blast variant with 4 galvanic blasts and 4 shrapnel blasts.
Yeah.
In the sideboard, I see Pithing Needle, Pyrite Spellbomb, Relic of Progenitus, Soul Guide Lantern, Shattering Spree, Void Mirror, Orvar, and Alpine Moon. Did I say anything here at all that just sort of like made you like, oh yeah, this is a great card for the matchup?
Yeah, Relic of Progenesis. That is one of the best cards against Death Shadow and one of the best cards against anything with Breach, anything with DRC, anything with Croxa. Those style of decks, Relics are really, really good. Even if it's just a one of, I usually do like to bring in both, if anything, a cantrip. So, gonna be happy for that. Outside of that, nothing too exciting. Should have a decent matchup here. So, not looking to make dramatic changes.
Okay. So you told me why Relic is really good, but does Soul Guide Lantern, does the same apply there?
Not really, because you don't get that draw card aspect. It's that important to just be able to make sure you're keeping up with card advantage against a deck like Death Shadow. You want to make sure you have removal for your opponent's creature, but you also want to strip the graveyard. So, yeah, not quite good enough. You're going to bring in Soul Guide Lantern and Relics up against decks like Living End, something where you want to draw one of these cards naturally.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. I'm looking at the sideboard here from the Death Shadow side of things, and a couple key cards, or just the sideboard that I'm seeing is Nile Spellbomb, Alpine Moon, Engineered Explosive, Spell Pierce, Unlicenser, Stress Down, Torok, Dread Cantor, Terminate, K Command, and Gigantha. Again, I'm going to ask you the same question. What sounds interesting here for you?
Yeah, nothing sounds amazing there. You probably want to consider Alpine Moon, I guess, for Urza Saga. But yeah, at this point, you just want to bring in all the removal you can, get some cards out of there that are less than ideal. Thoughtseize being the number one thing that jumps to my head, and bring in whatever cards that are least serviceable, just so you can get all the Thoughtseizes out of your deck.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we're advancing into what might be the final game of the day here. So, Magic Dan on Death Shadow on the play here with a 7 that looks like Unholy Heat, Drowned in the Lock, Ragavan, and Dragon's Rage Channeler. This is a very strong hand. We'll see if there are any mulligans here from the mono red aggro side, piloted by
Absolutely.
Fur MTG.
And a quick update from our outside table. Some of the people that for sure locked it up. Casa on Indomitable Creativity, as well as Crashing Footfalls by NBDF. Locking it up there with 8 wins. That's a for sure lock. 7 is looking pretty good as well. Dom Harvey, very likely to be locked up since he was the highest 7-pointer. Really, really cool stuff here.
Yeah, that is awesome. Looking forward to see some tight games of Magic tomorrow when the stakes are really on the line here. But in the meantime, we're gonna get through
Absolutely.
this one. Turn 1 Ragavan. What's the answer?
Let's see. There's plenty of ways to be able to kill that, but you do usually want to deal with it right away because, well, if this land comes into play, let's say untapped, I guess Drown in the Lock cannot counter anything as long as you don't have a graveyard. So still pretty safe to just be able to go Lightning Bolt. But if there was Spell Pierce, something along that line, this Ragavan would have been protected. And that would have been pretty risky. But it did play around second Ragavan being dashed.
Okay, yeah, then that makes sense. Dragon's Rage Channeler plus Mishra's Bauble is the follow-up here. Putting the shields down for just a brief moment, but I think that makes sense, right? You need to get into play. You need to get into the red zone. And there's the Urza Saga.
Right, and there is Relic, usually able to deal with DRC quite well, taking a little bit of a relaxed approach. Nothing crazy as aggressive as these mono red decks can supply, but just being able to go Urza Saga, blow some stuff up if you want, and then start making constructs next turn and start controlling the battlefield that way is a really nice sequencing here from Fur MTG.
Yeah, and honestly, Relic of Progenitors right now looks fantastic. I mean, looking at the Dragon's Race channel that's already in play, but in combination, there's Drown in the Lock in the hand as well, Unholy Heat in the hand as well. And oh my, Alpine Moon going to be the play here. Definitely going to name Urza Saga. And
yeah, that was huge. What a draw. What a draw there. That was pretty devastating. Another relic. There is the second one. But now at this point, where there's a saga being checked out with this Alpine Moon, now you really got to start winning with the creatures. That Urza Saga plan was a pretty good one from Fur MTG, but Alpine Moon being the perfect answer.
yeah, exactly. And now, okay, Pyrite Spellbomb. That can take care of the Dragon's Rage Channeler alongside one of the relics, maybe, exiling Dan's graveyard to remove Delirium.
Yeah, but even Magic Dan's got to try to find a Death Shadow, another threat. Death Shadow not being good right now, of course, because you're at 13. Ragavan being a nice pickup. Something like that to be able to put a little bit more pressure on, because, yeah, you're right. This DRC is not enough.
Well, check this out. Here's Kolagon's Command. Now, this is a card that we have seen a lot before. You remember the good old days with like Snapcaster Mage and Kolagon's Command? Yeah.
Absolutely. Those Grixis mid-range decks were my bread and butter. And Snap Bolt you, then Kolagon's Command, kill your creature, bring back Snap, then Snap Bolt you. Oh, yeah. Speaking my language.
Gurmag Angler. Rest in peace.
Yeah, no kidding. The old zombie fish did not come out too well in the exchange when Teferi Time Raveler got printed, let me tell you.
All right, so Experimental Synthesizer now in play. Going to reveal another synthesizer. That's going to reveal a mountain. And land drops have now been made. Things are... It's close. It's really, really close right now. I think for MTG, not in the greatest spot. Corey, maybe you give me some input on that. But on the other side, Iteration, Drown in the Lock, these are fantastic cards.
Yeah, not a great spot at all. You did not have that aggressive draw that we saw in game one with a bunch of creatures. It was very controlling, and sometimes that's what this deck turns into. You still have a lot of spells, but yeah, especially if there's not an answer to this Ragavan, looking pretty bad, and Magic Dan's hand is stocked.
All right, Ragavan going to connect and finds a Lightning Bolt. So that's always a good feeling.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Send that one upstairs.
With Drown in the Lock in the hand, you most likely want to at least keep that up and, force your opponent to keep Relic mana open just in case. But and so when I say that, by the way, Corey, can you clarify the interaction between Relic of Progenitus and Drown in the Lock?
Yeah, really rough one there. If you draw into the lock something and then in response you exile, now you're just not going to have any cards in your graveyard, and drawn in the lock will just fizzle. So I guess maybe does Relic exiles itself? I believe it does, right? Yeah,
It
you
does, yeah.
exile it to do it. So yeah, as long as you're not drowning the lock, a Memnite or something, that's going to counter the drown. So just deading every single drown in the lock, shutting down DRCs, preventing the explosivity of any underworld breaches. Relic's just amazing in so many matchups right now. Really powerful Urza Saga target.
All right, so check this out. So Voldaren Epicure coming into play off of a Sokenzan. We saw the Samurai token almost get tapped to the Springleaf Drum, but then instead, Fur makes the conclusion that because of Ragavan potentially playing a removal spell, I'm going to go ahead and just deploy from the land in my hand. There is a cost to this, though. Sokenzan does have a very relevant ability in this matchup, just being able to get on the board. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, all of a sudden, the value of these experimental synthesizers, getting those 2/2s going, ends up being pretty strong here. But Magic Dan's hand is still just stacked.
All right, Unholy Heat on the stack has successfully taken care of the Dragon's Rage Channeler, but more importantly, whatever we surveilled, we're keeping it. It's on top of the deck, so that means we're going to go to draw step coming up right now.
Oh, another Culligan's Command. Woo! Culligan's Command flowing. Powerful Magic card in this matchup for sure.
Yeah, this time around, it's a lot less powerful because you don't have a great target, a great secondary mode. I'm sure you can
Hey,
discard
you
a
can
card from.
destroy Relic right now. You can blow up Relic
Oh,
and deal with a 2/2 while it's tapped out. That seems great.
that is actually very good. And now you unlock the Drown in the Lock. Good call. Good call.
Yeah, now at least you can do something with it a little bit later. You could also deal 2 to Epicure. Yeah, Epicure and Relic, and then dash Ragavan to get in some more damage. Maybe hit something off the top of the deck from Fur MTG. And looks pretty solid here.
Yeah, these are the terrifying moments where you're so close you can feel it. Like the top 8 is right there. You're just like one turn away, one good draw step, and then Ragavan comes and just takes the lightning bolt. Like,
And
ugh.
get another bolt to deal with this 2/2, or just go straight to the face. Yeah, I like dealing with the creature. And now we're getting to the point, well, those 3 cards better be pretty good. But, that being said, it could be 3 Shrapnel Blasts, and, the game is still going to look pretty bad for
I was
Magic
literally gonna say
Dan.
I've got a
So.
poem for you, and it goes shrapnel blast, shrapnel blast, shrapnel blast. Like that would be. Uh,
Wow, stick to commentating, bud. You're not really a poet yet.
uh,
You need some diversity in those words, there, my friend.
yeah. Learning. My haikus are much better. Haikus, sorry, they're much better. But experimental synthesizer gonna go ahead and create the samurai token. Ragavan is the pickup here, and honestly, the nature of this deck, the curve is so low. I love to see it. It feels like you're always gonna get value out of these sort of riskier cards like experimental synthesizer that does reward you for having a low curve.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Here we are. We're just gonna see one of these bloods get sacrificed. And I mean, the battlefield is at least stalled for a little bit, but being able to go drown in the lock at end step, kill a creature, and then drown again is going to be great. Mixed with an expressive iteration. Wouldn't be too crazy to think Fur MTG has at least one Urza Saga in hand as well. That's
Mhm.
being contained by this Alpine Moon. So Alpine Moon looking excellent this game. This would have been a lot different if we had some constructs. Granted, these Culligan's Command probably would have pointed at them as well, but that is less value you'd be gaining from it.
So of note, it does look like the blood token actually did rummage away. I think it's rummaging. It's not draw then
Saga,
discard. It's
yeah.
discard then draw.
Yeah, I believe it is Rummage, yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so it did rummage away the Urza Saga. So you're right. Very, very astute that they are sort of getting stranded in hand here. And it looks like the next development. Okay, here's another Epicure.
Okay, that adds up every once in a while. And there goes another Saga to the yard. So yeah, wow, that Alpine Moon really changed the texture of this game.
I actually think this is fantastic. Being able to see how the additional elements of, selection, card draw, whatever it might be, gives this red deck a little another angle of attack, rather, because like normally we're just used to seeing like what we saw earlier, like the prowess decks. Okay, whatever you have is what you have. Like you have to throw it at
Yep.
their face and hope to get lucky. And this deck is like, well, we're gonna try to change that a little bit. We're gonna go a little bit deeper.
100%. It looks like we got another player into the top 8. Daking 3603 with Indomitable Creativity. So another creativity deck in, and another creativity deck in that tiebreaker scrum, but it actually looks pretty good for them. With Adrian Retro Mosa. Really, really impressive showing from that deck so far.
Yeah, so tomorrow we'll have to take a look at the top 8 and figure out what's going on and why. We'll be able to provide you answers as to why creativity might be doing so well this weekend. But in the meantime, Dead of the Bugbear is in attack mode.
Yeah, getting in there, getting busy. And honestly, this does not look too bad. There is Death Shadow, where that can get some work done here if you're able to take a little bit more damage. And a Shredder off the top as well.
Shredder quite good here. Dragon's Rage Channeler gonna put for MTG down to 3 life. This game is almost over. Something amazing has to happen here now, because with Drown in the Lock in the hand, it's not just one answer. For MTG, is going to have 2 answers.
Yeah, and there is a way to at least put the shields down a bit, but with only one card in hand and only one artifact. The best 2 cards would be double Shrapnel Blast, and you just can't produce a second artifact, and it's actually not even enough. So yeah, totally agree. This looks like we're heading game number 3 to see which player is going to take it down. And yep, for MTG, back against the wall here.
Yeah, I mean, this is great. This is exactly where you want to be. It's been a long day of coverage, and the stakes are higher than they've been before, because the delta between X2 and making like top 8 or whatever is it just defines the tournament, right? And so
100%. Yep.
this is where just gotta be calm, cool, collected. Actually, that's a great question. Do you have any tips for being in these sort of win-in scenarios? What do you do when you are under pressure?
I've had a lot of different stages of my career where I let these moments get to me. And honestly, it really just comes down to practice, in these moments, getting used to it. Just the hardest thing to do is you just have to understand that this is just another match of Magic. It has to be treated like that. Otherwise, you do make these mistakes. You don't play to win. Maybe you're just playing to not lose type things. Just got to treat it as another game of Magic and just relax. But no easy fix, because in the early part of my career, I would always be tense in these kind of moments.
All right. Well, we're going into game 3 right now. Mono red aggro against Death's Shadow. Mono red aggro on the play here. And this isn't your, everyday mono red aggro variant. This is the 8 blast list featuring many artifact synergies and 8 copies of these blast effects, Galvanic Blast and Shrapnel Blast. Looking at the Death Shadow hand here, we have Unholy Heat, Double Shadow, Steam Vent, Spell Pierce, Drown in the Lock, and Ledger Shredder. Can you evaluate this hand for me in this matchup?
It's bad. It does not look
A
good
stinker.
here. Yeah, an absolute stinker here. This is probably one you have to ship back. Of course you want shadows to come in. You can't even cast them. You are in the draw, so you're really hoping that the top of your deck is good to you, but it seems way too risky to me.
All right, and it looks like Magic Dan might be. Oh no, maybe okay. Both players are under mulligan, perhaps.
Yep, looks like Fur MTG has mulligan down to 6, and looks like a mulligan to 6 from Magic Dan as well. So a nice fair game here at least. But yeah, I don't think you could keep that one.
Okay, agree with you. This hand looks significantly better. A lot of lands, engineered explosives, Mishra's baubles, could be anything, could be a ham sandwich, expressive iteration.
And you get to do kind of the bobble trick where you do one of them now, and then you can play a fetch land. If you like that card on top, you can just draw it and then bobble yourself again later. But if you don't like that card, fetch it away and go from there. Looks like we just want to get EE for 1 on the battlefield and make this game a little bit weird.
Yeah. Actually, very weird. Okay, so
Yep.
we'll see what the follow-up is here. Spell Pierce the draw off the first bobble.
Then expressive, so that is pretty slow. If there is a hyper aggressive, follow up here, looks pretty solid. A bobble off the top. We'll see if Fur MTG was looking for lands.
That's a pretty big high roll, right? Experimental
Yeah.
synthesizer into bobble.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, absolutely. You're happy about that. And now, if Fur MTG's hand is full of one drops, you feel pretty bad where you do not want to just play another creature here and lose so much value. So just passing the turn here.
Now I'm thinking about experimental synthesizer. It says when it ETBs or leaves, exile the top card of your library until end of turn. You may play that card. So cracking the engineered explosives during the main phase may just be a little bit better here to potentially deny the synthesizer from drawing into an extra card.
Yeah, absolutely. Or maybe we're just not even considering popping it yet, which I could definitely see just holding it back and going from there. But no lightning bolt or something to get delirium from DRCs. So we're going to see a nice little slow game here where EE is looking pretty good.
Yeah, very fascinating actually. Not even trying to get to delirium to potentially bait out the engineered explosives. Maybe you're right. Maybe that's too much of a commitment to try to make happen when the explosives is just literally on the board.
Yep, exactly. It becomes tough, and now you're probably going to see Magic Dan either just blow it up right now. Okay. And now the one drops will be online for next turn, but yeah, Regavan won't be doing too much.
All right, decent stuff here. Decent stuff. No third land here for MTG though. That might just be the kiss of death. But we've seen how kind of low to the ground this deck is. Maybe it doesn't actually need the third land like most other decks do.
Yeah, could definitely be. That is definitely brutal though. We shall see.
Dragon's Rage Channeler entering the battlefield now on Magic Dan's side.
Responding with that galvanic blast, and that it does look like it's going to get spell pierced as well. So everything kind of coming up Magic Dan's way. Maybe we see another 1-mana removal spell from Fur MTG.
And I kind of like this, right? Like, get your value while you can.
100%. Doesn't look like you're going to be doing anything else with your mana here. So I love it.
Now, this is a fascinating question. Are you shocking?
No, I don't think so. Not in this matchup. I'd play Bobble. I'm going to try to hit Delirium here. Put a creature in the yard. It looks like what you need, or a sorcery. No such luck. And go from there. Have a couple expressive iterations and hope they can find you some goods. Going to be a big turn for Fur MTG. Fur's got to do something.
Yeah, oh, we can tell. Okay, so here's Lightning Bolt. That's a pretty good start. We see the double iteration. That's the combination of cards that could just drastically take over a game because there's just so much raw value. But now on the other side, for MTG, 3 cards in hand. The world is it oyster or lobster? I always get it wrong.
I would think oyster. World's your oyster.
All right.
Unless you love lobster, I guess. Then say whatever you want, man. It's your
I
show.
did live in the Northeast for a while, so.
Okay, that sounds about right.
All right, so
I lived in the
gets revealed.
Midwest. I lived in the Midwest where, the motto up there was always the world is your Miller Lite. It wasn't very elegant, but it was the motto up in the Midwest.
That's a vibe. That's a vibe. And a good one too.
All right, just a shredder and a tap land, leaving both of these expressive iterations still in hand. Yeah. And we'll see if there's an answer to shredder if we're just hoping to find something off the top here.
Okay. That's a shrapnel
that's
blast.
a big draw. Big draw. Fire that off. You get another synthesizer trigger, and here's where shrapnel blast looks amazing. Is there a spell pierce or something? Ooh, and look at that. So punished by leaving up blue-red instead of blue-black, where, you probably have more reds cards. So, Magic Dan not making a mistake there or anything, but situationally, That's going to hurt. That's an extra 3 points of damage, which could be the difference of the game.
All right, treasure token going to be used on this Ragavan, swinging in for 5, putting them down to 5. That's an unholy heat. Okay, all right. Tense game. Very, very tense game. We're like, I think we're just like 2 turns away from figuring out which one of these players might make the top 8 for tomorrow.
Yeah, holy cow. Now you got to think, do you want expressive or do you just want to try to kill both of these cards? Decides to expressive and maybe limit the option Magic Dan's going to have. Lightning Bolt allows you to kill 2 things, so a nice hit, and finds Death Shadow. That is the biggest creature to find right now. Big, big hit for MTG, but that's a convenient 5 life. If there's a Shrapnel Blast, we're done. Okay.
Knock, knock, one-time dealer. It's me, Shrapnel Blast.
We're not seeing Shrapnel Blast get cast, so unless it's quite the slow roll here, I don't think it's there. And with that being the case, that's 3 removal spells for 3 creatures. Death Shadow can start getting pretty busy here. That card is so large.
1 card in hand here for MTG. Gotta wonder, what is it? Would it be?
Is it good? I mean, if it was Shrapnel Blast, you'd fire it off now. That's a Blood Crypt. There's nothing it could be. So if we see an untap, it's not there. Okay, Bolt to clear off Ragavan. And another Death Shadow off the top. Now, the one thing with the way MTG is set up with that mountain, you can't cast all 3, but you can come in here for 8 smash, and then hope you have enough with 2 spells back up.
Yeah, I think in this instance, you're never going to... Actually, do you deploy the Death Shadow here, or do you hold up the removal spells? It has to be the removal spells, right?
I think it's the Death Shadow, actually. It's kind of the same, so you can pressure lethal, and then you just drown in the lock something. But like if there's like an end step bolt, I think just firing up this den just does it. There's an end step removal spell. Okay, that limits a lot of options. And now there's a counter spell for the Shrapnel Blast, so things are getting a little more dicey. Here comes a DRC, which probably has to be met with a removal spell. Or you go to 2.
Ooh, tricky, tricky, tricky. Are we tapping out of our Drown in the Lock here? I don't know. We've only got a single black mana.
I think you have to.
This is so risky.
It's so risky. Oh my, yeah, I think you have to, because you'd still die to Shrapnel Blast here, which is kind of brutal. If it's only Shrapnel Blast and land, maybe it's a mistake, but...
Oh my god, you saw the paying costs?
Yeah, okay, just 2 more creatures. Drown in the Log isn't wrapping it up quite yet, but you could attack with both of these. Well, I guess only one of them does have to be blocked. So now the attack's been a little risky here for Magic Dan.
As it stands, this looks like a winning board state for MTG.
Well, if we attack with both, with perfect information, if you only block with one, you killed that. I would agree with you, but it depends on if there's a block here. If there's no blocks, you got to think Fur's got this locked up, but it's risky to not block this. I'll tell you that.
Oh man, this is where champions are made. In the sweat of it, 11 minutes left on your clock. 3rd game here in the final round of the Swiss. There's a block. Okay, there's a block. Playing it safe.
And as it stands, it doesn't look like Den is going to be enough. There's Gigantha with 1 removal spell. MTG has got to draw something. So close.
Yeah, this one's going to be a tough one to watch on the replay.
Yeah. To be fair, I don't think MTG had it, because even if you didn't block, you animate Den, you block the Den and you kill DRC, and then you still only take 4, So it was not lethal on the other way anyways. Here's the last check. Is it Shrapnel Blast or not? Otherwise, this game is over.
Moment of truth.
It's not an expressive iteration off the top. Here is expressive iteration. If you find fetch land, you force a double chump just with the presence of it.
Hopes and dreams all on the line here.
Unreal game. Unreal match here.
Yo, good match selection, by the way. Good feature match. This is great.
This is a great one. Ooh, and there is a dress down. That's the same as a fetch down. That turns both Death Shadows into 13-13s. And there's only one blocker. This is going to be Magic Dad taking it down and denying the top 8 spot to Fur MTG and maybe sneaking in themselves, but it's going to be a little risky here. Here's the dead. Wake the creature, and then Dress Down is going to come into play after blocks are assigned or before. Doesn't really matter. And the sweet combination of making those Death Shadows into 13-13s and a Magic Dan coming in with Death Shadow and a foiled out version. So mad props to Magic Dan here. Yeah, just probably chatting in chat, being like, yeah, this one is over. There's no 1-mana spell that can take it down. So really, really impressive play from Magic Dan taking that down.